Yesterday, out of the three grades or categories of pamada and apamada, namely gross, medium and refined, we touched on the refined form of pamada and apamada. Buddha has given this discourse in various ways for the devotees in the practice of high-level discipline, of the way of mindfulness. If one does not practice respectfully and carefully, one is said to be heedless, pamada. And the reverse is true for apamada. If one practices respectfully, carefully, then one is said to be heedful, apamada. Again, if one practices with a stop-and-go method, intermittently, then one is said to be heedless. And if one practices continuously, without gap, one is said to be heedful, apamada. And if one takes rest, instead of practicing meticulously, then one is said to be heedless, pamada. And if one does, instead of taking rest, one practices meticulously with perseverance, then one is said to be heedful, apamada. Just with these three categories or three things, if his yogis are able to practice in this way, then there is no reason why they should become heedless. Instead, they will be heedful yogis, apamada. But of course, there are many ways the Buddha gives discourse to the yogis for the sake of devotees, such as holy navoti and unholy navoti, as we have touched on yesterday. Towards the end of our discourse, holy navoti means being laid back, being spaced out and laid back. And unholy navoti is reverse of that. Without being laid back, without being spaced out, one practices continuously. So we shall continue on this subject. This expression, holy navotita, all stands here for vulgar, low and vulgar. Lina is actually literally sticking, but not in the way of sticking to one substance, sticking to another. It means one is laid back, doing things in an easy way, easygoing manner, in the nature of not fulfilling one's duty, in this case the practice of satipatthana, and not performing as a duty. So for some people, they tend to become exhausted. First, they will not exert energy, and even if they exert energy, later, very soon, they become exhausted. They tend to shrink back from the practice, from anything, any undertaking, and they become easygoing. Even when one is doing for the sake of oneself, one's prosperity, whether it's worldly prosperity or spiritual prosperity, at times one will not wish to exert energy. And even if they exert energy to some extent, very soon they get exhausted, they become exhausted, wearied. This is due to cowardliness, not the heroic energy, but cowardliness. Actually, it is not so. There is a lot to be with so much capacity to exert energy, and this exhaustion and not wishing to exert energy is also called Tina Meda, sloth and torpor, one does not wish to exert energy and get exhausted. Then one would not wish to complete one's duties, one's responsibilities or undertakings. And then one becomes slack. There is slackening of energy. This is despicable, degenerate, especially when it comes to the high level discipline of the way of mindfulness, to cultivate knowledge, to cultivate insight. This is much more despicable and undesirable. This is termed cowardliness in the practice. Then one will not practice respectfully and carefully, and not meticulously, and not practicing continuously. Instead, one will practice in the stop and go method, shrinking and some slowing down, being laid back and spaced out. Such is heedlessness, pamada. Most are heedless in this way. Once this heedlessness sets in, for 5 minutes you suffer, you lose your mindfulness for 5 minutes. If such heedlessness sets in for 10 minutes, then for 10 minutes you lose your mindfulness, you lose your practice. And you can just imagine if you become heedless for 1 hour, you can imagine how much pamada sets in, how much you become overwhelmed with pamada. So that you fail in your duty, you become negligent, heedless. So then you will not be able to exert energy and become exhausted. Not knowing the advantages of exerting energy. However, when one exerts energy and understanding the consequences, the results, the benefits of exerting energy, then the more you practice, the more you exert energy, the more energy will come out of you in a very wonderful manner. So this happens, this kind of energy will arise both physically and mentally, so that you become wakeful, active, diligent, vigilant in your practice in a very unusual manner. Then you become fully energized in your practice. Then you will not become laid back, you will not go in an easy going way. Such is anolina bodhita. This is apamada, heedfulness. If one is laid back and do things in an easy way, easy-going way, then both physical and mental energy also will go down. So that instead of being strong, they become very weak. Because of the weakening of the mind, where you tend to give up mentally, instead of exerting energy. Because when you give up mentally, the body also becomes very weak. Mental weakness leads to physical weakness, so that you're not wakeful, you're not energetic, you're not active, not vigilant. And because the mind is not so active, the body also will not be active. And the momentum will go down instead of building up momentum. Then you will lack aiming power, the power of aiming, and energy. When you are not able to take an aim at the object, your mind will not be wakeful, your noting mind will not be active and expansive and not expansive. And because you are not exerting energy, you don't become active you become dull. Such is known as Odakita Manasa. That is, you tend to give up and surrender. And the opposite of that is Anodakita Manasa. That is, you are sort of determined and instead of giving up. You're sort of, your mind is, you tend to persevere and strengthen your mind so that you won't give in for anything. So in order to, when you have such a situation, you tend to give up and become dispirited, you become very weak, then you cannot just practice with ordinary energy. You must boost up your energy in order to overcome this laxitude or easygoing behavior. In order to overcome Tinameda, not wishing to exert energy and getting exhausted, which is despicable and undesirable. In that case, you got to boost up your energy, enhance your energy, so that your energy becomes boosted. Then you'll be able to overcome these undesirable sloth and torpor. First of all, you have Arambha Dhatu, the initial launching energy. Then we have Nekama Dhatu, boost up energy, uplifting energy. You've got to uplift your energy so as to overcome all these undesirable laxitude, undesirable easygoing behavior. In this way, if you strive on along this path, then you are bound to become heedful, apamara. Most people in the world strive to become prosperous by way of educational standards, education, economy, health, and so on. And some people excel others. Those people who come to the top, become prosperous, are not ordinary people. They are not exerting ordinary energy, virya, like other people. They exert extraordinary energy. That's why they are better than others. They boost up their energy by stages so that they become heroic. And whenever they are confronted with difficult situations, they boost up their energy so as to overcome it, get over it, get the upper hand. Hence, this is not ordinary energy. This is extraordinary energy. In the beginning, of course, when you do something, strive something, take up any undertaking, there's bound to be some difficulties. But by exerting energy with determination that you won't give in, boosting up your energy to overcome difficult situations, then the more you exert energy, the more you become heroic, and the more you are able to confront the more you wish to confront the difficult situations. And once you confront them, you boost up your energy, you overcome these difficulties. Then the more you overcome these difficulties, the more you become heroic, and the more you wish to face any eventualities, any difficult situations. That is very important. Exerting energy with determination not to give in. For those that's why in the world who are in a top position are not the ordinary people who exert ordinary energy. They exert extraordinary energy better, more energy than others. More so in the practice of the Dharma. We need a lot of striving, a lot of exertion, In this way you'll be able to overcome any difficulties. So the difficult situation in the practice are the enemies within. These enemies within, one of the enemies within is the laziness, slackness, which is very dangerous in the practice of Satipatthana. Otherwise you tend to give in. And for ordinary people, they tend to go easy, just like floating down a current or stream, which is easier than going or rowing the boat upstream. Such is given by the Buddha, the analogy given by the Buddha, Anusodagami and Patisodagami. Now in the case of Anusodagami, this is floating down the current, which most people do. It's very easy to float downstream, go downstream as the river or stream flows. You need not exert energy. Human nature is such is human nature. People like it. People prefer to go easy, especially for those who have had an easy life in their youth, especially when when their parents are wealthy, and also those people in the industrialized countries, they tend to depend on machines, because with the press of a button they can get anything, almost anything. So they tend to become laid back, and they tend to go easy, like floating down the stream. And especially for those who do not practice the restraint of their mind, not controlling the mind, and leave the mind uncontrolled, indulging in sensual pleasures, it will be just like rowing down the stream in a boat. That's Anusodagami. If you row upstream, this is very tiring, and you need a lot of energy, both by rowing with the oar and steering with the rudder. You have to steer with the rudder so that the boat will not turn back, and you row so that the boat will reach the desired destination. So rowing upstream is very difficult. And Sayadaw says he has had this experience when he was young, rowing a boat, both downstream and upstream. And when he started to row upstream, first of all, the boat tends to stop and does not go forward. Only when he exerted energy, rowing with the oar, did the boat proceed upstream. So especially in the practice of the Dhamma practice is rowing upstream. You need a lot of energy in every moment of mindfulness, and you need this rudder in the form of trying to hook up your mind on the object of meditation instead of hooking up your mind on the sense objects. You must aim your mind and focus your noting mind on the object of attention instead of letting it drift away into the sense objects, karma gunas. Noting every arising object with energy and precision, so that you are able to overcome the undesirable, tormenting, torturing defilements. You will be free from these defilements. And this is In the beginning, of course, there will be a lot of energy, a lot of weariness, tiredness. But as you go on striving along the path, noting every arising object, exerting energy, the more you exert energy, the more energy will come up. So the practice is like rowing the boat upstream, not giving up, not slackening, instead of rowing up with the oar. And as for the rudder, you aim your mind or observe the object of meditation instead of being drifted towards the sense objects of sense of pleasures. So this is going upstream, and the practice is to overcome all kilesas, and you must practice so as just like rowing upstream, exerting energy. That is how the Buddha has given the analogy. Another way of approach to this pamada and apamada is nikitita chandata and anakitata chandata. Now, as for the first one, not having chanda, lacking in chanda, that means zeal, lacking in desire, strong desire to practice without regard to one's body and life. In order to realize the benefit of the practice, which is assured, which has been given assurance that such a benefit, such a practice can overcome the existential suffering. And if one practices with heroic energy in the practice of the high level skillfulness. So one lacks in chanda, in overcoming difficult situations, because in the beginning one exerts energy, but since the result, though in the beginning there may be desire, initial desire, when once they come to the retreat. So one has to understand previously in the beginning, as a prerequisite to the practice, the benefit of the way of mindfulness satipatthana, that it can eradicate or overcome or weaken passion, malice and delusion, raga, dosa, moha, and be able to overcome this tormenting and torturing greed, undesirable greed. And it can purify the mind, overcome grief and lamentation, overcome physical suffering, mental distress, and be able to eradicate kilesa to the point of no return, kilesas which has been torturing you all the time throughout your lifetimes. And the Satipatthana practice gives assurance to realize ultimately the final peace. This is as simple as that. These benefits are given as simple as that, which the Buddha has given as an assurance in the beginning of the great discourse on the way of mindfulness. It is only the Buddha which has given such assurance and nobody else. So when we think about it ordinarily, this looks quite trifling, but when you seriously consider it, these are significant benefits. For that, one must have strong zeal, chanda, and exert lona virya, that is energy, effort, with the concept, guarding the mind, guarding yourself with vigilant mindfulness all the time. That should be your guideline. Instead of that, if you are not able to have strong zeal, although in the beginning there have been zeal, but later you tend to give in, your zeal becomes weak, you become weak, that such is pamada, heedlessness. So one should not give up this zeal the practice is to overcome these kilesas, undesirable, torturing, defilements, passion, malice and delusion. And one must have this zeal, not ordinary zeal, but real strong zeal. And this practice is to weaken or eradicate. Sarah says it will cause a minus sign, gives minus sign or subtraction, minus sign to these undesirable defilements. Instead, if your chanda is not strong enough, then you are giving plus sign to these undesirable, tormenting defilements. So you have to strive on to weaken these defilements. Although in the beginning there may not be any difference in the practice, any unusual observation or result in the practice, later on, although the results are there unconsciously, although it may not be very obvious in the beginning. If one is mindful, one activates sati, kilesas will not enter, because sati protects your mind from kilesas, so that kilesas cannot enter your stream of consciousness. So every time you note, every time you observe the object to be noted, every time you apply sati, kilesas will not enter. When he or she is handling that, the handle of the tool does not give away. There's no reduction or a mark, the sign of handling day by day. But as time goes on, in the course of a year or so, then he or she will notice then his or her carpenter has worn out through the years of handling, through many days of or years, months and years of handling. Although in the beginning it is not quite obvious. Of course, he or she cannot calculate in terms of numbers or in terms of measurement to what extent this handle of the tool has worn out through the years he or she has been handling. But it shows that every time he or she handles the tool, it wears out. This wearing out, it becomes obvious after such a long time. So if you handle once, then the tool is worn out once. If you handle 10 times, it's worn out 10 times. So in this way, same thing with the practice of the yogis. Every time they are noting and knowing, they are weakening these undesirable, tormenting and torturing defilements, negative emotions. Although you don't realize that they are going away, unconsciously these defilements, these negative emotions are going away. Such is the nature of chanda. One should not give in or give up one's zeal or just weaken one's zeal. One must keep it up. Keep up the momentum so that your virya, energy, becomes continuous. By being continuous, it is going to build momentum and you have a very strong energy. Although in the beginning the energy may not be great, later on with strong chanda, you are bound to see the results, and such is the way the yogi should practice. If on the other hand you are just weak, you just apply weak chanda, weak zeal, or weak desire, sort of a strong desire, then you will become heedless, pamada. The opposite, of course, is obvious, apamada, heedful. You become heedful. So such is the way. So that this is how it has been given by the Buddha as regards the description of the refined form of pamada, abhamada. If you just, instead of practicing the normal chanda, one should be able to step up or strengthen, enhance one's chanda. And one should be able to realize the benefit of the practice and to practice. Otherwise, if you are not wishing to realize the benefit of the practice, then you become heedless. Now what the yogis are practicing is to overcome this fatal happiness of sense pleasures, which is very common in the world. These sense worldly pleasures are fatal and they're deadly, they're dangerous. And one can realize, one should have this concept that one is bound to realize the kind of peace and happiness which excels the worldly happiness which the majority of the human beings are enjoying in this world. This is what the Satipatthana practice gives assurance. And whoever wish to realize such kind of happiness which excels manifold the sensual pleasures is bound to exert their energy without giving up, because that's a real assurance, very strong assurance given by the Buddha. And then when you realize such kind of happiness which excels the worldly happiness, then you don't need to be exhorted, to be urged or pushed by others. You need not wait for others to push you. And also you do not need to do self-encouragement. You'll be encouraging yourself automatically. Although in the beginning there may not be, the result may not be obvious, later on as the results come up, there will be more and more zeal to undertake the practice, and the zeal will come up as is given in this regard. It has been given in the Dhammavara Pali, Sunyagaram Bhavadasa. That Sunyagaram means a place of solitude, a place of a secluded place of seclusion, such as this place. A place of seclusion can be a forest, under a tree, quietly under a tree, or this place, for instance, is a kind of forest which is quiet except for some noise of the buildings and so on. So once, if you go there, you can enter, you can go to this place and practice the Dhamma in seclusion, in calmness. So if you undertake this practice, you are bound to realize the kind of happiness. It has been described as Santa Chitta, that is peaceful mind. Peace of mind, free from passion, malice and delusion, great hatred and delusion, raga, dosa, moha, and you will not be moved by these undesirable, tormenting, torturing defilements. And such is the result, and that is given by the Santa Chitta, peace, mind, peace. You realize peace and happiness. And this kind of peace is not realized without doing anything. You have to practice, you have to cultivate. The expression given is jayino. You have to concentrate your mind. And concentrate your mind with the application of jhanic factor. Of course, since we are practicing vipassana, we are concerned with vipassana jhana instead of mundane samatha jhana, the tranquility absorption. This is insight absorption, insight jhana, concentration. So you can attain this vipassana jhana by noting every arising, beginning with the primary object of rising and falling, not to miss them, by applying energy and precision, aiming. This aiming is a jhanic factor. By aiming, you are applying a jhanic factor. It's a vipassana jhana. By aiming your mind, by taking an aim at the object, aiming is a jhanic factor. You apply energy. As much as you apply energy, your noting mind will be sustained on the object of attention. This sustaining, this state is another jhanic factor, because every time you note, your noting mind is noting, being sustained on the object of attention every second of the practice without missing it, with the application of energy. If you, as much as you note meticulously, in order to grasp the object, there's bound to be sati, mindfulness, and when the mindfulness is sustained, you are bound to gain concentration, cultivate concentration, samadhi, the noting mind falling calm and collected on the ever arising object. So, and just look at the situation when you are able to cultivate this bhavana chitta, the meditative mind, and when you are able to apply this jhana in this manner, what happens to your mind? Your mind becomes serene and clear, and you can just ask yourself whether you are subject to passion, raga. Is there any raga arising in you, or are you moved or shaken or affected by raga? It is not, because your mind is peaceful, tranquil, santa chitta. Your raga is subdued, so that your mind becomes tranquil. And how about this dissatisfaction, anger, ill will, dosa? There's no such thing. This also becomes subdued. You are free from dosa at that very moment. You are not moved or affected by dosa. Same thing goes with other defilements. They will not arise in your stream of consciousness, neither will you be moved or affected by these defilements, because you are attaining this santa chitta every second of the time. So when you are not affected or moved by passion, hatred, and other defilements, noting continuously, so as to, in the nature of the jhana, practicing in the spirit of this jhana, aiming, so as to aiming, which is vitakka in Pali, and as you apply energy and aiming, the object falls calm and collected. Object is sustained on the, and noting mind is sustained on the object. This is vichara, and that also is another jhanic factor. The noting mind does not miss the object, instead it is fixed on the object, attached on the object. So as to grasp this object and activating sati, leading to samadhi, and in this way you are realizing this santa chitta continuously in a very unusual manner. At that time your mind becomes very clear, serene and calm. So at that situation, samadhamma vipassato, that is the expression, as a result of this concentration or mindfulness, as the object, as the noting mind falls calm and collected on the object, as it is sustained on the object, just imagine at that moment you will see things in their true nature, such as the nature of the mind and the body, and their causal mode, the conditionality, and their universal characteristics. That things arise and pass away, and whatever arises and passes away are not satisfactory. And what is impermanent and satisfactory cannot be self or soul. It is non-self, something which you cannot control, unmanageable, uncontrollable, things arising at their will, not at your will. Especially if you continue to practice in this way, there will be this fast, you come to experience the fast arising and passing away of the objects noted, the fleeting way of objects. That is samadhamam vipassato. When you approach a secluded place of seclusion, and you're bound to realize this Dhamma delight, Dhamma rati, in a very unusual manner, seeing things in their true nature by progressing along the path, seeing the fleeting way of objects, the fast arising and passing away of objects, seeing things in their true nature, you realize this amanusi rati, this kind of delight which excels manifold the human sense of pleasures. The sense of pleasure, the kind of peace and happiness which is out of reach of human beings, out of reach of sense of worldly pleasures. Worldly pleasures cannot be compared to such peace and happiness because it excels manifold. It surpasses these worldly pleasures. As for human beings, ordinarily they consider these worldly pleasures as the best they can enjoy in their life, as has been discussed previously. Now they go on enjoying this deadly and fatal happiness. They get delight. They are delighted in desirable, beautiful objects, wishing to see beautiful, attractive, visible objects, wishing to hear sweet, pleasant song, wishing to taste tasty food, wishing to touch good, pleasant, soft, tangible objects, both living and lifeless, and non-living, both living and non-living. And this kind of happiness that we are talking about, manusirati, excels manifold such kind of delight or pleasures. This rati, delight, can be obtained with the practice of the Dhamma. And this kind of delight has been qualified as unmixed. This is not mixed with other things. And this is good in itself. It doesn't have to be mixed with other things. As for worldly pleasures, they always come in mixtures, not just one item. Whereas this one arises, causes delight in one item, as it is, without admixture. It doesn't have to be mixed with other things, and it is something you do not wish to relinquish, unrelinquishable. Once you realize this kind of delight, you don't want to let go this kind of delight. Especially when you come to the stage of Udiyabhya Jnana, the knowledge of the fast arising and passing away, then you are cultivating knowledge in an unusual way, so that you are cultivating your mind and insight in an unusual manner, and you come to experience this kind of delight, which is good in itself and which cannot be let go. Once you attain that, then there will be more and more chanda, more and more zeal. You don't have to be urged or encouraged or pushed by others, nor do you need self-encouragement, special encouragement. There will be self-zeal, self-chanda, and you will not shrink back, you will not withdraw from this practice, because you know the benefit of the practice. And if you do it in a very normal way first and then boost up your energy, then you are bound to become desirous. Chanda will arise, and this kind of, and then you'll be able to gain this assured amanusirati, which is assured delight, which you don't want to let go. And then there will be more and more chanda. You will not wish to withdraw from the practice, but you will only advance, go forward. So the practice will become a daily routine, and you'll be able to live with it. And such is the subtle grade or subtle way of abhamara, heedfulness. We come to this stage for the practice, this amanusivati, the excellent delight, that delight which excels, which surpasses human delight, human pleasures. Then this rati has been qualified as amata, deathless. At this stage, of course, you will not be realizing this deathless state as yet. But if you go on continue your practice meticulously, you are bound to realize this deathless state. Hence, of all the delights, the Dhamma delight excels other delights, all delights that has been given in this expression. So, if you are able to realize this Dhamma delight, then you are bound to jump with joy. Then you will be sure that if you continue to practice, you are bound to realize this kind of peace and happiness in this very life. And to do that also, we need to be fulfilled with 5 factors. And these 5 factors will be discussed tomorrow. That's all for today.